Another Friday and another movie review by Jolum. This week I review a movie that was released in theaters 33 years ago. This past week. The movie in question is Terminator 2 Judgment Day. Don't forget to like and subscribe to my channel. And when you're done, you can go back and watch previous movie review episodes. The playlist is in the description box. Terminator 2 Judgment Day. A 1991 American sci-fi action film directed by James Cameron, who co-wrote the script with William Wisher. It stars Arnold Schwarzenegger as the T-800, Linda Hamilton as Sarah Connor, and Robert Patrick as the T-1000. It is the sequel to The Terminator, which was released in 1984. I covered that on a movie review earlier this year, so you can check that out yourself. It is the second installment of the Terminator franchise. In this film, the malevolent artificial intelligence Skynet sends a Terminator, a highly advanced killing machine, back in time to 1995 to kill the future leader of the human resistance in John Connor when he was a kid. The resistance sends back a less advanced reprogrammed Terminator to protect Connor and ensure the future of humanity. The Terminator was considered a significant success, enhancing Schwarzenegger and Cameron's careers, but work on a sequel stalled because of animosity between the pair and the Hemdale Film Corporation, which partially owned the film's rights. In 1990, Schwarzenegger and Cameron persuaded Carolco Pictures to purchase the rights from the Terminator producer Gale Ann Hurd and Hemdale, which was financially struggling. A release date was set for the following year, leaving Cameron and Wisher 7 weeks to write the script. Principal photography lasted from October of 1990 to March of 1991, taking place in and around Los Angeles on an estimated $94 to $102 million budget, making it the most expensive film made at the time. The advanced visual effects by Industrial Light and Magic, which made the first use of a computer-generated main character in a blockbuster film, resulting in a schedule overrun. Theatrical prints were not delivered to theaters until the night before the picture's release on July 3, 1991. Discussions to make a sequel stalled until 1989, in part owing to Cameron's work on other films such as Aliens and The Abyss, but also because of a dispute with rights holder Hemdale Film Corporation. Hemdale co-founder John Daly, against Cameron's wishes, had attempted to alter the ending of The Terminator, nearly resulting in a physical confrontation. A sequel could not be made without Hemdale's approval, as Cameron had surrendered 50% of his rights to the company to get the Terminator made. Cameron had also sold half of the remaining stake to his ex-wife, Gale Ann Hurd, producer and co-writer of the first film, for $1, following their 1989 divorce. What the fuck? By 1990, Hemdale was being sued by Cameron, Schwarzenegger, Hurd, and special effects artist Stan Winston for unpaid profits from The Terminator. Schwarzenegger, aware Hemdale was experiencing financial difficulties, convinced Carolco Pictures to purchase the film rights to The Terminator. Having worked on the independent film studio on big-budget science fiction film Total Recall, owner Mario Kassar described the rights acquisition as the most difficult deal Carolco ever conducted. He accepted a $10 million offer for Hemdale's share, considering it a sum fabricated to ward him off, and paid Hurd $5 million for her share. Prior to the development, the total cost of the acquisition rose to $17 million after factoring in incidental costs. Kassar told Cameron that in order to recoup his investment, the film would proceed with or without him, and offered Cameron $6 million to be involved and write the script. The film would become a collaboration between several production studios: Carolco, La Studio Canal Plus, Cameron's Lightstorm Entertainment, and Hurd's Pacific Western Productions. The studio had an existing U.S. distribution with TriStar Pictures, which stipulated that the film would be ready for a release by May 27, 1991, Memorial Day. 2029 Earth had been ravaged by a war between the malevolent artificial intelligence Skynet, and the human resistance. Skynet sends the T-1000, an advanced shape-shifting prototype Terminator made of virtually indestructible liquid metal, back in time to kill Resistance leader John Connor when he was a kid. To protect John, the Resistance sends back a reprogrammed T-800 Terminator, a less advanced metal endoskeleton covered in living tissue. In 1995 Los Angeles, John's mother Sarah is incarcerated at the Pescadero State Hospital for her violent efforts to prevent Judgment Day, a prophesized event of August 29, 1997, when Skynet will gain sentience and, in response to its creators' attempts to deactivate it, incite a nuclear holocaust. John, living with foster parents, also considers Sarah delusional and resents her efforts to prepare him for his future role. The T-1000 locates John at a shopping mall, but the T-800 intervenes, coming to John's aid and enabling his escape. John calls to warn his foster parents, but the T-800 deduces that the T-1000 has already killed them. Realizing that the T-800 is programmed to obey him, John forbids it to kill people and orders it to save Sarah from the T-1000. The T-800 and John intercept Sarah as she is making an escape attempt, but Sarah flees in horror because the T-800 looks identical to the Terminator sent to kill her back in 1984. John and the T-800 persuade her to join them, and they escape the pursuing T-1000. Although distrustful of the T-800, Sarah uses his knowledge of the future to learn that a revolutionary microprocessor being developed by Cyberdyne engineer Miles Dyson will be crucial to Skynet's creation. Over the course of their journey, Sarah sees the T-800 serving as a friend and a father figure to John, who teaches its catchphrases and hand signs when encouraging it to become more human-like. Sarah plans to escape to Mexico with John, but a nightmare about Judgment Day convinces her to kill Dyson. She attacks Dyson in his home, but realizes she cannot bring herself to kill a person and relents. John arrives and reconciles with Sarah, while the T-800 convinces Dyson of the future consequences of his work. Dyson reveals that his research has been reverse engineered from the CPU and severed arm of the Terminator from 1984. Believing that his work must be destroyed, Dyson helps Sarah, John, and the T-800 break into Cyberdyne, retrieve the CPU and the arm, and set explosives to destroy the lab. The police assault the building, fatally shooting Dyson, but he detonates the explosives as he dies. The T-1000 pursues the surviving trio, cornering them to a steel mill. Sarah and John split up to escape while the T-1000 mangles the T-800 and briefly deactivates it by destroying its power source. The T-1000 assumes Sarah's appearance and voice to lure out John, but Sarah intervenes and, along with the reactivated T-800, pushes it into a vat of molten steel, where it disintegrates. The T-800 explains that it must also be destroyed to prevent it from serving as a foundation for Skynet. Despite John's careful protest, the T-800 persuades him that its destruction is the only way to protect their future. Sarah, having come to respect the T-800, shakes its hand and lowers it into the vat. The T-800 gives John a thumbs up as it is incinerated. As Sarah drives down the highway with John, she reflects on her renewed hope for an unknown future, musing that if the T-800 can learn from the value of life, so can humanity. Terminator 2 was a critical and commercial success, growing 519 to 520 million at the box office to become the highest grossing film of 1991 worldwide and the third highest grossing film of its time. The film won several accolades, including a Saturn, BAFTA, and Academy Awards. Terminator 2 merchandise includes video games, comic books, novels, and a live-action attraction called T2 3D Battle Across Time. Terminator 2 is considered one of the best sci-fi action sequels films ever made. And it was also a major influence on visual effects in films, helping usher in the transition from particle effects to reliance on computer generated imagery, or CGI, as I like to call it. The United States Library of Congress selected it for preservation in the National Film Registry in 2023. Although Cameron intended for Terminator 2 to be the end of the franchise, it was followed by a series of sequels, including Terminator 3 Rise of the Machines in 2003, Terminator Salvation in 2009, Terminator Genesis in 2015, and Terminator Dark Fate in 2019. My overall rating for Terminator 2 is a 95 out of 100. This movie is considerably a highly influential film, setting a benchmark for sequels, action set pieces, and visual effects. James Cameron and special effects supervisor Dennis Muren said that the groundbreaking special effects in Terminator 2 demonstrated the possibilities of CG animated effects, and without it, effects focused on films such as Jurassic Park would not have been possible. Terminator 2's influence on special effects described it as the most important special effects film since Tron in 1982, making it the start of the era of the reliance of CGI effects for films such as Jurassic Park and The Matrix from 1999, and so on and so on. This has been Joel Um's Movie Review.